All right, everybody, we are live. We are a little over 30 minutes, a little under 30 minutes away from this boxing event, which is taking the world by storm. Some Sunday night fights, Jed Meshew. How we doing, my man?
Dude, I'm pumped. What do you mean, how are we doing? It's the event of the summer. We're here. Honestly, like I know that it's become a bit of a joke, but I'm legitimately interested in tonight, if nothing else. So which frankly is more than I can say about most of the things that happened last night. Not all of them, but most of the things that happened last night. So yeah, it's a carnival, it's a sideshow, and that's cool because I'm all about carnivals and sideshows.
Right, and that's what we've been telling people here on MMA Fighting for a while. Just enjoy it for what it is. Like, this is not Tommy Hearns versus Marvin Hagler that we're talking about here. This is Jake Paul versus Tyron Woodley. This is what it is. This is silly but fun, and I'm very intrigued by the whole thing, Jed Meshew. Like the closer we get to it, the more intrigued I am. I think Tyron Woodley has had his approach to this, especially from a mental standpoint, it's really interesting. I thought he'd be a lot more hectic. Maybe Jake would anger him a little bit more. I think Tyron Woodley's done a tremendous job all week long. What say you?
I think so. I didn't expect him to do anything like that. So I think we're just coming from different perspectives here. I think it's been fine. I don't know if it's necessarily the right plan, but I guess the proof will be in the punching in just a little bit. You know, I don't think he needs to get up in his well, actually, given who Tyron Woodley is, maybe he needs to get up in his feels because he is not a guy who like fights real violently, even at the best of times. And honestly, his best chance to win might very well just be coming out and swinging really hard, very aggressively. So it actually might be really counterintuitive, but not a good plan for him to have handled this kind of a mature and pretty, I won't say calm. Actually, calm probably is the right word. I don't think he's been like cool with everything, but he's been very measured in his responses for the most part.
Yeah, I like his approach. He's actually made it because I mean, pretty much the entire build. I'm like, Jake Paul's gonna whoop this man. It ain't even gonna be fun. We're gonna feel bad about it. And then the closer we get, I'm like, all right, I think Tyron's gonna be a little more competitive. I still think Jake's gonna win, but here we are.
Wow.
You don't think so?
I don't know. I have made a bit of a pivot today to thinking Jake Paul is going to win. My stance the whole time has been that Tyron Woodley is probably not, like, he's kind of washed, but the people he's lost to are 4 of the 5 best welterweights in the world. Like, there's no real shame in the losses he's had, and in particular his fight against Vicente Luque. Like, that, if he fights like he fought against Luque, I just default to thinking he will win because he is actually an experienced combat athlete, even though boxing and MMA are incredibly different. Like, I can't get that. Maybe it's a bias I can't get out of my head. But as I've been going on, I've been a little more leaning towards Jake Paul. But I didn't think that from pillar to post like you seem to believe.
Yeah, I mean, I just feel like the size discrepancy. I don't know. I mean, who knows? Maybe I'm wrong. See, the beauty of this, Jed Meshew, is that no matter what happens, it's all good. Like, it's all good. Only good can come from whatever happens. If Tyron wins, we're getting this again. Maybe a third time. And if Jake wins, who knows? Maybe he actually fights a legitimate boxer. If Tommy Fury wins against Anthony Taylor, which he probably will in the opening fight of the main card, that's probably where we're going. At least that's what it seems. You don't think so?
Not at all. Why would Jake Paul fight someone who's going to beat him? Like, Jake Paul does not need to fight a real boxer. Like, he's doing things the correct way. He's fighting not real boxers. Because the minute he fights somebody who's like actually a boxer, like, Jake Paul maybe has some talent. It seems like he has like at least some natural ability to this. But like, if you talk to anybody who knows boxing, they'll just be like, yeah, Jake Paul get his ass whooped by any like reasonably experienced club level fighter. Like, it's not, he can't fight a good boxer at all and have a chance to win. And I wrote about this yesterday for the hot tweets. The way Jake Paul the people who want Jake Paul to leave the sport, he ain't doing it. Like, he's going to be around in our lives for a little while. But if you want him to leave, the way it happens is not getting knocked out by Tyron Woodley tonight, because that is an explicable loss that has cachet and people understand. Like, the way to leave is for him to fight a club level boxer that nobody knows about, who whips his ass, and then the emperor has no clothes. Like, it's Kimbo Slice, Seth Petrozelli is the analogy I made. Like, if Kimbo Slice had lost to, he was supposed to fight Ken Shamrock that night. If he had lost to Ken Shamrock that evening, Elite XC would have been fine, because that is at least a loss that is bad for the people who know, but the people who know don't care anyway and don't respect this on the merits. But for the people who don't know, which is the millions who are going to buy this pay-per-view, well, they know who Ken Shamrock is, the world's most dangerous man. Like, that's fine. And the same thing, Tyron Woodley is a multiple-time UFC welterweight champion. Like, if he loses tonight, Jake Paul can go back to the drawing board, be totally okay, come back in 5 months, people are still going to buy it. But if he fights Tommy Fury in a month, like or 2 months or whatever, that's going to do much worse for his brand. So I don't think there's any chance we go for that, because I think the Paul brothers are smart, at least in what they're doing, and they know what they're doing. I think we're going to Anderson Silva. I believe Anderson Silva is. I know Anderson's got his business with Tito, but we talked about this before. It's going to be a pleasure to watch one of the greatest, most accurate strikers in history ding shots off that enormous noggin of Tito Ortiz's. And once he's done with that, I think that's where we're going. And that fight makes sense on this same sort of progression that Jake Paul's been moving up.
I would love to watch that. I'd love to watch Anderson Silva box anybody at this point after his last fight and how much fun he had. Just going into some of the questions here. By the way, since this fight and this whole card is kind of crazy, the main card kicks off in 20 minutes on Showtime pay-per-view. You can watch on Fight TV. Tommy Fury, the aforementioned Tommy Fury versus Anthony Taylor. If you're bored and you want to watch an interview before that fight, because there's probably going to be some filler between then, watch my interview with Anthony Taylor. He's come a long way, that's for sure. Montana Love versus Ivan Baranchik. Daniel Dubois versus Joe Cusimano. Co-main event, really good fight. Amanda Serrano versus Yamileth Mercado. Amanda Serrano, very good boxer, very underrated. I'm glad she's getting some shine, getting on this card, getting a payday. And then, of course, Jake Paul versus Tyron Woodley. And should be a lot of fun. Do you care about this tattoo bet, Jed? Does it add any sizzle to the steak? Do you feel like there's some realness to this? Do you feel like a tattoo is going to be applied for whoever loses this fight?
I bet a tattoo will be applied. I don't care in like any tangible way or whatever. But I think things like this are like a really great add-on, that because some people do care. Some people think this is cool. I don't, but they got to bring in that tattoo artist who I don't know the world of tattooing, guys. Sorry. Yeah. I've never even watched an episode of Ink Master. That just ain't my life. Jose Young should be better here. But apparently she's very well respected, and so you get to like branch out and get some added celebrity added in here. Like, I think that is the sort of thing that costs almost nothing. Like, it has it's all opportunity. And so I think doing that is a great idea. It'd be a little cool. Like, it'd be a little cooler if it wasn't, I love Jake Paul and they got to do something more fun or interesting for me, but I don't think that matters for most people. And clearly, yeah, as the questions come in, some people are caring about it.
Yep. People want to see Jed versus Ariel on BTL, Jed versus Colby on BTL. I know.
Look, I've called out both of them. As people know, I'll defend against anybody. I would love to respectfully battle Ariel or very disrespectfully battle Colby. Look, Colby, I'll make you a deal. You come on BTL, I will then fight you. It will be 2 murders, one my way and one your way. I'll let the people figure out which one is which.
Yes. Comment. I would like to know where the people are at. What did you think of Dana White's comments? Dana was asked about Jake Paul's comments saying that at some point he's going to walk through a hotel or a casino lobby and he's going to knock Dana White out. And Dana White said, well, I'm 52 and that's pretty much the age range of guys that Jake Paul fights. And then he kind of followed up with, get in line. Everybody wants to knock me out and punch me in the face. So any credence to Dana's comments?
It's fine. Like, Dana, it's tough to make Dana look good, and Jake Paul has been doing a good job of not making him look good, but he just tossed Dana a freaking just a tater down the middle, and Dana cleaned it up. Like it's, yeah, I'm 52 years old. You're fighting not real fighters, and so you probably should beat me up were that to happen. And a lot of people hate me anyway. Like I think Dana handled it exactly the way that he should have, and I think Jake Paul misstepped. Like don't come at Dana about you're going to beat him up because one, you won't. You just aren't about that life. Like you are not a dude who's going to do that in real life. So it's stupid. It's not like Dana doesn't have security who would hand you your ass. So it's stupid. And you're just making a lot more traction with the if you're such a successful businessman, why are all your fighters broke? Like you should be just banging that drum forever because you are objectively correct and he doesn't have a response for it that doesn't sound like a petty, whiny, sad little child.
I think one person that would agree with you is the Bellator women's featherweight champ, Chris Cyborg, has apparently joined us. Woodley got more promo from this fight with Showtime than the UFC gave him for any of his fights. I can't argue with that whatsoever. This is a great night for Tyron Woodley. Making more money than he's ever made in his career. More people know who Tyron Woodley is heading into this fight than maybe ever before. It's crazy.
And the UFC just hated Tyron
so badly.
So it's really just it's a confluence of that statement from Cyborg or whoever's running Cyborg Social would be true regardless, but it's doubly true here because they just hated Tyron Woodley so much. They didn't do shit for that man.
Hey, by the way, did you notice who's on the broadcast team for this card? Of course, Ariel Helwani is on the broadcast team.
Are you talking about the erstwhile BTL champion?
A GOAT, Phoenix Carnivale?
The GOAT. In fact, I did notice that Phoenix Carnivale was doing sideline. She's doing some type of coverage.
She's backstage, I think.
Backstage.
Well deserved.
I guess it's not a sideline at a boxing event, but you know what I mean.
Jake Paul versus Masvidal next. If Jake wins, I don't think the UFC is letting that happen.
Yeah, can't do that because I mean, one, Masvidal would love it. I don't know what his contract terms are. If he's close to getting out, but I don't think he is. Look, the future is thank you, MMA Wages. The future is Jake Paul. We all know Jake Paul, Conor McGregor, but the closer future is Jake Paul, Nate Diaz. Because I think when Nate has done this contract run up, however long it is, he's made comments about wanting to start his own boxing organization and stuff, and that's just a money earner right there, easy money earner. And honestly, that would be the perfect next fight for Jake Paul because Nate Diaz is a much better boxer, and so like he would run the risk of losing, but I actually don't think Nate Diaz is likely to knock out Jake Paul in a boxing match, just given the way he fights. And if Jake Paul came in with the plan of I just need to make it to the final bell and I can try and win a decision, but even if I lose, I still look really good here. Like I think that is a much safer fight for him than some of the other ones that he could take.
If you had a bet looking at the odds, who you putting money into? I'm trying to find.
Last I saw, Woodley had bumped up to like plus 160 with Paul almost at -2. I think I cannot stress enough. I don't think anyone should bet on this fight because I think this fight is entirely to me determined by X factors. And so since you don't know what the X factors are, like you just can't have a reasonable concept for what's going to happen here. If I had to gun to my head place a bet, I'm putting it on Woodley. But I'm basically doing that because in a fight where I think it's entirely X factors, just give me the underdog odds. Because like I think this fight's going to be, we will know the outcome of this fight within the first 30 seconds to a minute of it. Like not because somebody gets knocked out in that time, but like there aren't that many questions to me about how this looks other than like fundamentally, really it's two things. Does Jake Paul like getting hit or can he at least tolerate getting hit? Because if he can't, we've seen some people just can't take a punch like at all. And if he can't, then his boxing career is dead. And even a washed Tyron Woodley who's never boxed probably going to get it done. And does Tyron Woodley try to do anything whatsoever? Because the book on Woodley, even in MMA, was he just back up to the cage and not do anything for like a really long time and then wait for like the perfect punch. So if he does that, like, Jake just might win on points just because he's at least trying to effectuate offense. But I think we'll know very quickly. And so I would not bet before the fight. I would bet live if I was going to bet at all. Because if this gets out of the first round, I think you're going to know who's going to win.
I agree. Right now, currently, Jake Paul -185, comeback on Tyron Woodley +150, according to our friends at DK Nation. So we'll see how that goes. Do you guys believe if Tyron Woodley gets beat by Jake Paul, it would be more humiliating than Ben Askren losing to Jake Paul? I would say it probably depends on like how it happens. Like if he gets colded in 30 seconds, maybe, but because we all knew about like with Ben Askren, we knew what was going to happen. Like we weren't expecting Ben Askren to win that fight, and if he did, it was going to have to be like the Homer Simpson sort of way where he just gets pummeled the entire time, and then he just takes like his glove and pushes a tired Jake Paul over. Other than that, I didn't see any way Ben Askren was going to win that fight. But Tyron, this seems like a little bit different. Like there's a lot of people who feel like Tyron has a very good chance to win this fight. There's no gray area, Jed. There's no like, well, he's got a chance to do this. It's pretty much one or the other. It's pretty hilarious how there's no middle ground. It's either Jake's going to kill him or Tyron's going to kill Jake. There's no in between. So do you feel like it's more humiliating for Tyron Woodley if he loses tonight than it was for Ben Askren?
I think it does depend to some extent on how it looks. If he gets colder than 30, then it's probably more humiliating just because he's a better fighter than Ben Askren was, and he's not going to come to the cage chubby. I was going to try and make it sound nicer, but he's not going to come looking like he hadn't done anything in months. He's going to come bricked up, and if he gets colded by some dude and he's a former multiple-time UFC champion, probably a worse look. If you lose a decision, no, then if anything other than getting knocked out in the first round is probably still better for Woodley here. Just because like even as much as I was very clearly, I believe that Ben Askren's going to lose because he sucks at fighting. All going into that, and then it happened. I didn't even think it was going to look like that. Like he was just going to get blown up immediately. Like that's a really horrendous look. And I also think it's an interesting nexus point. Like if Woodley loses, I think people will not be like, wow, Tyron Woodley's washed. There will just be a big groundswell of Jake Paul's for real. And so that will take some of the sting off it. Whereas with Askren, I think it was the inverse here. So no, unless it's a real early knockout, I think this isn't as bad.
Fight goes the distance +400.
I wouldn't touch that at all.
Me neither. Me neither.
Tyron Woodley hits really hard, and Jake Paul hits pretty hard, and neither of these dudes has boxing gas. Like I'd be stunned if that made it to the final bell, honestly.
Question for us: is this actually sports? See, yeah. Like we prefaced at the beginning, yeah, it's definitely sports, but at the same time, like we have to approach this for what it actually is. It's what it like. Just enjoy the ride.
It's sports. It's not elite boxing, but no one's pretending it is.
Right.
You know, I mean, we get a actual like pretty good co-main event, although it's still women's boxing, so it's 2-minute rounds because even elite women's boxing is fake. They don't give them the respect of letting them fight like actual adults. So it's all a joke. And this is entertainment, and it is sports. People are actually going into that ring. I was going to say cage, but that's not true. And they are actually putting brain cells and head trauma on the line. Like nothing else. At least respect the fact that they're both willing to get hurt over this.
Agreed. Rico Joker Jr. Isn't the possibility that Tyron is now motivated because he's coming into another type of combat sport? Won't that help him? I mean, I don't know if the motivation is there because he's going into another type of combat sport. I think motivation for Tyron comes from a lot of different places. I think it comes from what happened to Ben Askren. I think it comes from Jake Paul. I think it comes from the pressures that the MMA community has bestowed upon him. He could put that in the back burner all he wants, but there's no way that's not at the forefront of his mind right now, is that he's doing this thing and trying to help the sport that made him a name, if we're being honest. But Do you feel like the motivation, like where do you think his motivation comes from, Jed? Not and money, of course, a lot of money.
Hell if I know, man. If I'm guessing, I assume that he's motivated because he doesn't want to lose to a YouTuber. Because even though I don't think this affects his legacy one way or another, he probably feels to some extent like it does, and it will certainly affect his future on the internet if he gets knocked out. Like that, maybe that's motivation. He just doesn't want to post something on Instagram and have 15,000 jackasses reply with a "you got" message or whatever it becomes from the Paul people. Other than that, like I don't. He said he's motivated a lot. So like his last 4 fights before he got his ass whooped, he was very motivated, and then he came in and he wasn't all that motivated. Uh, I I think the things that make fighters fight are don't have anything to do mostly with the things that we as fans believe that they do. They are motivated because they internally want to succeed. In the same way that anytime you do something that you are passionate about, you want to do it, you want to win and do it to the best of your ability. Even if you dear whoever it was that said that name is no longer on my screen to read. If you're playing golf or whatever, you want to play well and you get really upset if you don't, because we all want to be good at the things we do, and it doesn't matter if we're world class or just doing it with our buddies. So I don't think he has any real difference in motivation than he does any day of the week.
How do you guys see this fight playing out in your head right now?
Again, I think we'll know after the first round. Gun to my head, Woodley tries to be really patient early and then starts getting boxed up, and then he falls back into not doing anything like he did a lot. And Jake Paul is a little more cautious, but starts scoring points, and then finally ends up hurting Tyron Woodley in the 4th round. It's my guess, but anything could happen, dude. Anything at all is on the table.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at right now. I think Jake finishes it in the second half of the fight. How long till the fight? I have no friggin' idea.
This could be forever,
yeah. I'm glad it's not a Triller event, because if this was Triller, we'd be looking at 3:30 a.m. easy with all the musical performances.
Yeah, doing this on a Sunday night, that's my only beef with the whole thing. It's a school night, man, and you're doing this shit.
Jake loses, Jake wins. Any chance this makes it to the distance? I mean, there's a chance, but I say no.
Nope. I think of all the things that could happen, that would be the one that is the most surprising to me.
A lot of people losing their rent money on Woodley. You've been warned.
If anybody's putting their rent money on Tyron Woodley, I mean this with all sincerity. There are numbers you can call. You have a problem. Please do not spend money you do not have betting on Tyron Woodley in the year 2021 to win any fight, much less a fight in a discipline he's never trained in. Like, that's a really bad idea. Please don't do that.
All right. So this is, if Jake knocks out Woodley, everyone's going to say it's fake no matter what. Do you feel that the common storyline coming out of this fight is that it's going to be fixed one way or the other?
I think it depends on the finish. Like the reason it happened with the Askren is just how quick, and it looked a little weird because Askren got up and could fight again or whatever. So, but like if Woodley gets slabbed, no one's gonna be like, that is fake. But there will probably be some people saying that if he loses, if he gets like a standing TKO or whatever, or if he just comes out. That's the thing. There is the opportunity is if Woodley comes out and just doesn't do anything, which again, totally possible. Really, please watch the fight. Then people would be like, yeah, that he was just there for a paycheck. This was all set up so he could put Jake over, which would be dumb, but people are dumb on the internet.
It's true. Opinions of the Mama Woodley situation.
I heard. So do we know what was said to Mama Woodley? Did that come out? Because I heard through the grapevine what was allegedly said that started the whole fracas, but I don't want to go telling tales if what I have is not accurate.
See, here's the thing. For anybody who follows the site for a long period of time, I've not been around very much. As you can see, the command center looks a little bit different right now. I am in a much different state of the country than I was, so 1,500 miles away from where Command Center 2.0 was. So a lot has been happening in my world. I am very familiar that there were some skirmishes going on. How it started, I have no idea. No clue. Maybe someone can fill us in.
So I had heard that a comment was made to Mama Woodley about Tyron Woodley or about her son and being educated, which is not a great statement and does in fact border on racism. But the whole thing was dumb, regardless of what it was that precipitated it. But I loved Mama Woodley. One, I love her unconditionally. She's tremendous. And her response to the whole thing was, it was very dumb. And yeah, it was just dumb. And that's it. Like it was all very stupid. It felt real and not staged, at least. Like it felt like what was happening was genuine and not here's a last minute push. Maybe I'm just a mark. But so at least it has that. But it's all really dumb. And yeah, in general, don't talk about other people's moms because that's low class.
Yeah. Didn't we learn anything from the build to Kevin Lee versus Michael Chiesa? Come on now. Don't be talking about anyone's moms. It's a hot button. It's a hot button, even for Michael Chiesa.
Isn't that like the one fight that Kevin Lee actually has won in his career?
It's still kind of questionable. Still kind of a questionable one.
Kevin Lee. Woo!
Still kind of a questionable one. I believe that was a Mazzagatti special, if memory serves me correctly. All right, this is the one I want to see. We'll do a few more. This fight doesn't get Jake any credit. Look at Woodley's last fight. So that's another thing that I've been thinking about. Like if Jake Paul goes out there and starches Tyron Woodley tonight, knocks him out in the third round, and he just looks really good doing it, do people start putting respect on his name? Like maybe not like full on, but do we start to look at him as somewhat of a threat to the 4-0 boxing community?
I don't look at him as a threat to anything other than other washed up MMA fighters, but he gets respect for it. Like,
right.
Everybody's just holding Jake Paul to this obscene standard. Like they're holding him to the standard that you would hold other prize fighters who can generate this interest in revenue and pay-per-view, but that's not the standard. The standard is other 4-0 prize fighters. So yeah, like I said, he's a 3-0 boxer who's trying to be 4-0, which doesn't mean anything to anyone. But he does get more respect because he is yet to fight somebody who at least theoretically can hurt him. And Tyron Woodley can hurt him. Whether he will or not, we're going to find out in a few hours. But if he wins this fight, he absolutely gets more respect, or should, than he had before. That doesn't mean I think he should get the respect to be like, when he talks he's going to fight Canelo, that's not gibberish. No, because that's insane and ridiculous. But does mean that if he wins this fight, I am more interested in watching him box, Nate Diaz or whatever.
People's main event outside of, we know what the friggin' people's main event is. It's the only reason we're watching the card. But what outside of this, is there any other fights that you have circled? Do you have any other fights circled at all?
No, the rest is fine. It's all look. If you want to watch Amanda Serrano box, that's fine. She's a very, very good world champion female boxer. I always don't like the fact that women's boxing is 2 minutes. That seems very dumb to me. But it is what it is. That's the other thing to watch here. But no, the rest of this doesn't matter. Like the rest of this, I wouldn't watch if for any reason other than the fact that I'm buying this pay-per-view because I'm about to do the live blog here in a minute.
Excellent. Where do we watch the fight? You know where to watch the fight. Showtime, Fight TV, or
you might not know because, again, it's Showtime. So go to Fight TV because they're a real organization.
Jed absolutely loves Showtime.
Showtime is impossible, man. But yeah, so what's your official prediction here, Mike? Or do we have more questions?
Let me just ask this. Let me just throw this out there because it's been asked 487,000 times. How big of a disadvantage is Woodley's height and reach?
Doesn't matter.
I don't think it matters in a fight like this.
Like if Jake Paul was an elite boxer, sure, but like Jake Paul doesn't really know how to use his reach in the first place, and so it just doesn't matter. It's not like he has tools to you. Like, I'm gonna leverage these tools in a brilliant display of skill. Like, no, they're gonna throw and they're gonna hit each other. At best, we're looking for like more than 2-punch combinations from each man. We're not looking at intricate displays of boxing prowess. That's not what's coming for us.
Now, this is a Fight Circus special. Robbie Lawler and Darren Till versus Jake and Logan Paul. Tag team fight inside the octagon. 10 rounds?
What are you doing? Death is a doorway. You had the Diaz brothers versus the Paul brothers. It's right there. And you go for this? Robbie Lawler actually makes total sense as a future opponent for these gentlemen because he's old. He's about to lose to the next guy he fights because it's not going to be Nick Diaz. It's going to be some dude who comes in on short notice when Nick Diaz pulls out. And then Robbie can go on and fight. That'd be great. But yeah, no, it's the Diaz brothers versus the Paul brothers. Grow up.
Out of the Paul brothers, who is the better boxer? I think it's
Jake
pretty
is very
obvious.
clearly the better boxer.
Not even close.
That's not an I think. It is very obvious that Jake is the superior boxer of the two.
All right, we'll do like 3 more questions. This is for both of us, Jed. Do you think that it is important for the sport of MMA that Woodley win this fight tonight? I don't know if it's important. It'd be like a nice shot in the arm, but no, I mean, I don't think it really matters because until Jake Paul actually gets into an MMA fight, I mean, it's a moot point. But oh boy, this is BTL, Jed. This is final question, Jed. This is knockout round, Jed. What do we got?
It is important for MMA that Tyron Woodley lose this fight, Mike, because there are clear good and bad outcomes here, not just for Showtime, who's invested money, and for Jake Paul, who is clearly a rising star, and Tyron Woodley is a fading star. There's a clear and definitive good outcome for anybody who has a soul and enjoys the sport of mixed martial arts. Because, like him or hate him, I personally not a huge fan of Jake Paul or his brother. They both aren't my cup of tea. But you have to respect that this man has, in his short time in the general space of MMA, brought more attention to fighter pay than all of us journalists combined have been able to muster amongst the broader general public. It's not like we don't talk about it. It's not like journalists and other fighters haven't said stuff, but nobody's standing up and talking about this on the broader, wider things. Like, that's just not happening. But Jake Paul has made it a point, because he is beefing with Dana White, to keep banging that drum. And if Woodley wins, great. He's supposed to win, supposed to quote unquote win. They'll rematch. He'll win then, and 2 wins. Then Jake Paul will recede a little bit. He'll come back at some point in the future. And then we get Jake Paul doing whatever, not really that relevant or interesting to us, the MMA fans. And Tyron Woodley is going to go box somebody, and we're going to have to watch it. He's going to box somebody who's better at boxing than Jake Paul is. He's going to get knocked out. Then we're going to have to watch Tyron Woodley lose more. And that's not good for us either. But if Jake Paul wins, then Jake Paul gets to keep doing what he's doing. He gets to keep courting fights with MMA fighters. He gets to keep getting all up in Dana's chili. And that should make all of us happy anyway, because it's fun to watch Dana squirm. And then he just gets to keep raising the most important issue in the sport, frankly, to eyeballs that will hear about it, like to people who will pay attention to this outside of us in our little corner of the world saying fighters are getting screwed. And that's the way we can make change happen. It is an unlikely avatar for progress, but Jake Paul is it, honestly, for MMA fighters. And so I think the clear best outcome for the sport is him to win tonight.
Last thing, Jed, got to leave you with this because you didn't ask this. Similar to your Mayweather Wink story on BTL, what is the craziest way this fight could end?
Shouts to Javon, because that's probably the best thing I've ever done on BTL, if I'm being honest. I was so pumped about that.
That was amazing.
It was so good. The craziest way this fight could end. I don't actually think there is that crazy of a way for this fight to end. Outside of something outlandish like Logan Paul jumps in the ring in the middle of the 4th round and just decks Woodley or something. Like, I don't think and that's too absurd to really think is viable. I think this is going to either one or two dudes is getting knocked out. I don't think it's going to be that crazy. I think the controversial part of it might be if it's a standing TKO, because Tyron Woodley can take a punch or whatever. But yeah, I just don't. I guess the craziest way is literally Tyron Woodley knocks him out the first punch, because then that will make everything get real weird and very odd.
Yeah. There you go.
What else we got? I don't want to do.
All right, we'll do them.
Let's go. Ariel's up. Look at this. I'm watching the pay-per-view now. What's up, Ariel? Shouts to you with Morrow. Morrow's got some real nice hair going right now.
Morrow is a G. Such a G. We're just getting spammed like crazy.
Let's go. Who doesn't love spam?
I can't even find a freaking question.
Well, so wait, Mike, do you agree with me that the best outcome is Jake Paul winning for the sport of MMA, or do you disagree?
You're probably right, because I don't think Tyron's going to put up as much of a fight as Jake Paul is right now, honestly. And all it's going to do is he's just going to get. I mean, and this is if Tyron Woods wins, great, good for him. Gets paid, gets a little semblance of respect back from the community, gets another big payday because the rematch clause is in effect. And if Jake wins, he gets a third fight. So Tyron's getting paid if he wins, and that's really good. But if Jake wins, you're right. More attention, more onus gets put on fighter pay. Jake calls attention to it. Jake puts some of his own money towards others people's GoFundMe pages. It's all good. I mean, that's good stuff. Plus, by the way, for those of us in the biz and we're looking for clickety clacks, Jake Paul brings them. Okay, because people ask us all the time, like,
sure
why are you writing about Jake Paul? There's a perfectly good reason. There's a perfectly good reason for it. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable how much interest this guy generates. It's mind-boggling, Jed. It's mind-boggling.
It's awesome. I love that the biggest star in MMA is not. He doesn't even fight in MMA. It's this sport. This sport is a train wreck, and it's why I still love it.
Oh, it's so good.
If like 10 years ago, I would be like, what will you be doing on a Sunday night in the middle of 2021? I will be talking about a YouTuber who is going to box a former UFC fighter because that's my job. I'd be like, well, my life took a turn, and that turn was MMA. It's the best.
They're going to a draw. I'm calling it now.
Man, you don't know. You've never watched boxing. They go to a draw only if Tyron Woodley is winning a decision. Then it's a draw. And that's not happening. Like, it's not a decision to be won here. I think they might have like a doctor's stoppage, no contest, because that's the craziest outcome. If Tyron Woodley decides to bite Jake Paul's ear, if he goes full Mike Tyson, that's the craziest outcome.
That would be insane, dude.
It would actually be awesome. I already respect Tyron Woodley, but I would have so much respect for him for the comedic genius of it.
True. All right. I think we're done.
That's a shame.
I know. Listen, we got other fights to watch. I am somewhat.
We don't have to. We don't have to watch these other fights.
You don't want to watch Tommy Fury versus Anthony Taylor?
I mean, it'll be fine. I'm actually legitimately. I would be way more into watching the undercard if I was there, because the arena. Talking to E. Casey Leiden, who is on site for MMA fighting, doing some on-site coverage. He says that even for the dark fight, it is popping off there. Apparently, the people are really into that, and I'm sure the live experience is great because my experience at Triller was dope. Jake Paul knows how to make a fun evening, and so I think we're at least in store for something different. And that's all you can really ask for in this sport, something different.
Yes. So, yes, we will have coverage. We're going to try to stream the press conference afterwards. It's not going to be like, obviously, a UFC event where like every single person that fights and wins comes back. We'll have Woodley, Paul. If Serrano wins, we'll see her. And then I think the winner of the Tommy Fury, which will probably win. I believe she's a minus 3,000 favorite.
If Serrano wins, we'll see her. But if Mercado wins,
we might not see her.
Nobody's interested in that. So we're just going to keep on moving.
And then I think the winner of Fury and Taylor will be back there. So I think that's it. And we'll carry that right afterwards.
Definitely be back there.
Yeah. And I think we'll
that is objectively the other fight that people care about, which is super weird, but nobody likes women's boxing, I guess. Philistines.
Meanies. And then we'll do a post-fight show after. So I'll be there. Maybe Jed will be there. I don't know.
I'll be there. Who needs sleep?
You coming? All right.
Sure. Why not? I mean, I'm going to be watching the whole thing. I'm live blogging it for the site. So
you might as well.
That's why I have the pay-per-view up on my other screen right now while they're not fighting, because they want Sunday night to last until Monday.
They're not fighting yet?
Morning. No, we've just been at the booth with Ariel. I don't remember who else is there. Morrow, and I don't remember who else is doing the like.
Have the fighters even made the walk yet?
I don't know. I have it on mute, so I can't tell if they're making the walk now. They haven't made the walk on screen.
Oh boy! You know what? You want to go a few more minutes?
Sure.
I mean, if the freaking
if there are other questions, I'm happy to answer them. I feel like I had something else to say about this fight, but I can't remember it now. Because I've been having thoughts about this fight all day, oddly.
If the UFC would allow a current fighter in their roster to fight Jake Paul, who would you like to see Paul fight?
Yeah, it's Nate
from
Diaz.
the UFC.
Nate Diaz, for sure. Like, that's, I mean, it's not like I care to watch him box anybody for the merits of the sport. You want to watch him box a spectacle. So it's Conor or Nate, and Conor doesn't have a leg. So Nate Diaz, that's the choice, obviously, for me.
Daniel Rodriguez.
I
That
mean,
dude's about that life. I'm telling you, man, that guy impressed me. That would be really fun.
Look, I don't care to watch. Like, I'd watch it, but I don't care because this is not for merit. This is for spectacle. But that would be pretty dope because Daniel Rodriguez is, indeed, he is about that life.
He would love that. I would be up for the Tommy Fury fight if I was there. There we go. I don't know why I put that one up there.
I don't care, bro. I have so much knowledge.
Strawberry MILK-DUD?
I'm not going to pretend like I have knowledge about deep cut boxing prospects.
Yeah,
I cover MMA, bro. I am a casual boxing fan at best.
Listen, the Strawberry MILK-DUD is kind of accurate right now. The lighting isn't where it needs to be. I don't know how I'm going to set Command Center 3.0 up yet.
Strawberry MILK-DUDs?
I don't know. There is tonight.
I don't know how I feel about that. MILK-DUD's great candy. Strawberry MILK-DUD, I have questions.
I got a little sunburn from the South Carolina sunshine.
You gotta adjust. D-Rod too. Again, that wouldn't shock me. That man's about that life.
How many pay-per-view buys do you predict? Over 1 million?
Great question, Scott.
Yes, I think
we're over 1 million. I'm going 1.5.
1.75.
Ooh, you're feeling frisky with this one.
Yeah, I think it'll happen.
Oh my god.
What do we start?
I forgot that Showtime brought the freaking Barstool people in to do this too.
Oh boy, I forgot about that. Get a job. Charles, welcome to the club, my man. Just own it. Once it happens, you just own it. You shave it and it becomes part of you, and that's it.
Seems very like a lot of upkeep.
It's not. It's so easy. You know how much money I save on haircuts every year? I pay like $16 a year on haircuts.
I just don't get my haircut either, and I save that money. But I don't have to like shave it periodically, which seems very difficult.
When is the actual fight? I don't know. I would guess 12:30, 1 a.m. would be my guess.
We've got 1, 2, 3, 4 fights beforehand. Yeah, I'd say 11:30 is my guess. I bet they try and get it off before midnight. Which means buckle up, kiddos.
Conor would be good, but he's out of action. What happens if Jake Paul gets knocked out cold and Woodley raps the song while the ref counts?
Well, I'm torn because one, from a style points stance, that would be awesome. But also then you have to hear Tyron Woodley rapping, and he's very, very bad at that. So I think on the whole, I'd still like that to happen because it'd be dope. But yeah, Tyron Woodley should just not rap because he's not good at it.
Jake Paul open workout was an embarrassment. Yeah, I mean, listen, that's what those.
Dude, if you're looking at open workouts for anything other than embarrassment, I don't know what to tell you. They're not useful.
Why won't Jake Paul fight in the octagon at least once?
Because he gets a lot more money this way.
That's true, and doesn't have to get in the octagon and fight.
Yeah, I mean, if Brad Pitt wants to fight him in the UFC, I bet Jake Paul would do that. But like, he's not going to fight an actual UFC fighter in a cage for way less money.
Am I crazy for going over 3.5 rounds?
I don't think you're crazy at all. I think that's fair. I can totally see that happening.
I think round 4 is about right. Moro the GOAT. I agree.
Moro's pretty great. I mean, I got nothing bad to say about Moro.
Yeah, I went and covered a Bellator card a few weeks back, and Moro like walked by me and like said hello and shook my hand, and it was like the greatest moment of my life. It was a big deal. It was like seeing David Ortiz, like in my prime Red Sox fandom.
I mean,
it was an amazing moment.
Cool to hang with Moro for a minute. I don't think Marl would like me that much, but that's fine. Marl's a very positive person, and that's not me. So I'm just not confident he'd enjoy my presence.
I think we're both on Jake Paul. You know what? I'm going to leave it to you guys real quick for the last 2 minutes because I don't know if Tommy Fury or Anthony Taylor made the walk yet. Or
They are now announcing them, so I believe we're about to get the walk here.
We're about to get the walk, so neither of them have left the locker room yet.
It doesn't look like anybody's in the ring yet.
All right.
Oh, nobody's in the ring yet, so no.
All right, for these last 2 minutes. All right, last 2 minutes. Make your predictions. Jake, Tyron. That's simple. Go. We'll let it happen. Jake Paul versus Bruce Willis, Jed. Who wins?
In a boxing fight, Jake Paul.
In a boxing fight, yes. Real fight, Bruce Willis whoops that ass.
Yeah. Bruce Willis, man. Look, Bruce Willis could be 80. Die Hard forever.
Let's see.
One of my 4 favorite films. That movie's still incredible.
All right, we got 1 for Tyron.
Way to go, buddy.
2 for Tyron. Jake. Tyron. Woodley. Tyron.
I want to throw a very brief shout out to that man who tried to shame us for not knowing about the Tommy Fury thing. This is a 4-round fight. I shouldn't know about any fight any boxing match that is 4 rounds. This is absolute nonsense.
Jake, Woodley. It's a lot of Tyron here. A lot of Jake by bribe.
Nah.
Tyron, I'm begging you. I mean,
don't beg Tyron. Look, for everybody who thinks that Tyron Woodley represents MMA, he doesn't. You just gotta let that part out of your mind. Because MMA and boxing aren't fighting. These are not 2 avatars of their sport. Because boxing sure as shit wouldn't put Jake Paul up to be their dude. And nobody in MMA would pick Tyron Woodley to be our rep either. This is a thing on its own merits. It's legitimately interesting on those merits. It's fun. It's entertainment. This is not high-level sport, and it doesn't speak to anything grander than 2 dudes trying to get that bag. And let's enjoy it for what it is, because that's still a really good reason to watch people punch each other on a Sunday night.
Tyron Muwash is Hey Jake, so I hope you don't fold. So many Woodleys, man. Jake by contract. Ref in the house wins. True. Woodley, Tyron. Jake Paul gets it done, but much closer than people think. It will go the distance, and Tyron will have his moments, but so will Jake. Jake Paul wins via decision. Guaranteed.
Look, if you're right, I'd like to talk to you about it later, Pete, because I just don't see how Tyron has moments that don't result in the unconsciousness of Jake Paul. Like, if he has moments, he should have a knockout, and if he doesn't, I don't know what happened. I love you too, fan.
A lot of Tyron. What if Tyron won? They're going to fight again.
If Tyron won, then in that rematch, that's when I'd be looking for Tyron to take a dive. Because if he had any business sense about him, he would take a dive.
Mike versus Floyd? No.
And what?
And bowling?
There are a lot of competitions I would favor you over Floyd. Boxing ain't one of them, but there are a lot of them I think you could handle up.
I'll golf against Floyd.
I feel like Floyd could low-key be really good at golf.
I think we'd have a pretty good matchup. I'm playing pretty well lately. If I can keep my drive relatively straight, we're in good shape. Do you think Tyron kicks Jake in this fight? I hope so. How cool would that be?
If Tyron pops off a blast double, that would actually be sick.
Paul's bank account will win the fight. Jake. Tyron via cost check murder. Keep underestimating Tyron's fight acumen. We'll see, man. We'll see. Tyron's a smart, but listen, what do we have to go by for Tyron's acumen? He's had some great game plans in the past. He's had some great performances, but we can't base it off his last 4.
Like MMA, Daniel Roberts on Twitter posted this earlier today. He's a really smart dude and knows a lot about boxing and MMA. MMA and boxing are just incredibly different sports, and I don't think people recognize how different they are because they both involve punching people. Like, they are just so different that really, it's hard to value much of what Tyron did, at least from a combat standpoint. He's in shape, he has hand-eye coordination, and he can take a punch, but beyond that, tactics, skills, stuff like that, they aren't a one-to-one translation. So it'd be cool if Tyron Woodley did really well tonight, but I don't think we can look at his previous history and be like, this for certain means he's going to win.
I agree.
I agree. Protect Mama Woodley at all costs. She is
all costs. She's a saint. She should be in the UFC Hall of Fame right now.
Who's going to vote against her? Communists.
If Tyron win means nothing, but if he loses, that really sucks.
I don't think a loss means anything either. It may suck for some people, but if Tyron loses, he's going to have a big bag of money to dry his tears with. So
yes,
he's going to be okay.
$100 bills, driving his brand new convertible. He'll be fine. All right, Jed. I think we've bilked this enough. I think the fighters are about to the first two fighters are about to do 4 rounds.
The ring right
it's
now.
time. Anthony Pretty Boy Taylor.
4 rounds of cruiserweight action. And this is the peak of boxing. So as you know, we did a deep dive on a 4-rounder. Because as everyone knows, Butterbean, king of the 4-rounders, is a hallowed figure in the noble art of the sweet science. And so we need to give this a lot of attention.
Yes.
One random dude who was mad we didn't know undercard boxing fights. Grow up, Peter Pan.
Okay, so everybody go spend your $60 to watch this fight, and then we will convene on the post-fight show. We're not going to talk about Woodley Paul at all. We're going to talk about this fight.
Tommy
Fury versus Anthony Taylor.
I don't know if he can box at all. I don't know anything about this. But Tommy Fury is an extremely well manicured man. I will say that. That man presents himself very well.
Like a star.
Like he does. If he can fight and talk, maybe he can do something because name's cool.
True that. Jed, thank you very much. We'll see you in, 5 hours. And we'll do it again.
God willing.
To recap all this. All right, so enjoy the fights, everybody. And remember, it is what it is, okay? Just watch it for what it is.
Enjoy the fight.
Enjoy it. It's chaos. Fun. It is going to be fun. And I'm very excited to talk all about it at the end. So enjoy, everybody. 5 fights, and then the big one, Jake Paul versus Tyron Woodley. And we'll see you on the other side. For Jed, I am Mike Heck. Enjoy the festivities, everybody.
Bye, everyone.